over 100 goals, stopped 10 in a row, European final. But I no disrespect to him, but in my head, he's not up there with Richard Gough or John Greig or even Ferguson. I don't know if you guys would agree with that.
Absolutely, because you're judged as a Rangers captain on how many trophies you deliver.
Aye.
And James Tavernier has come up way short during his 10 years at the club now, isn't it?
I mean, I feel for him slightly in that sense that, when he arrived at Rangers, where the club was, and
He wasn't captain at that point either.
No, and how they had to get back. But I think he said himself, James Tavernier, that I think it was when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, as much as he was delighted and honoured at that, he knew himself that he would be judged on trophies when he leaves the club. That's what people will look back on. And I think a lot of players, obviously, in this kind of era, you think the last 10 years, they will look back with a wee bit of regret that they didn't put more silverware on the board. But listen, in terms of a player and a signing, I mean, what a signing Tavernier's been for him. Say what you like about him as a player, or how much he's won. For 250 grand, the amount of games he's played, as you say, getting to a European final, alright, only one title, but he's won both cups as well. And the goals he scored.
He's made an enormous contribution. An enormous contribution, and that can't be taken away from him. But at the same time, it's really difficult to try and place him in the same sort of level as your Goughs, your Terry Butchers, your Barry Fergusons. And even I think the critical thing for Rangers, even if Clement is a bit confused and he suffers the same sort of Le Guin syndrome with the captaincy, if you want to know how important it is in this part of the world, you look across the city.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You look at what Scott Brown put together over his period as Celtic's captain, and you look at how his successor has stepped up, who was being groomed for the position, has stepped right into it seamlessly, and what a leader he is for Celtic on the pitch. Even watching the Kilmarnock game the other week, Callum McGregor wasn't his best. Celtic weren't at their best. It was 0-0, and they were actually getting played off the pitch for long spells of the first half. But with about 3-4 minutes leading up to half-time, you actually saw McGregor sort of grow, put his shoulders back and say, right, I need to take responsibility here. And he got up the pitch a bit more, and he was building moves, and he was popping passes into the final third, probing at the Kilmarnock defence. Yes, it all led to him with a bit of a fluke of a goal to put Celtic in front with a cross into the box that ends up catching Robin McCrory and going into the keeper's right-hand post. But it was McGregor's influence at that critical period of the game that got Celtic through. And that's not a one-off. It happens time and time and time again. And that's why it is really important who's your captain. Because some players struggle with the weight of the shirt in both sides of Glasgow divide. Your captain needs to be the inspirational guy that when times are tough, I'll take this, I'll do something, I'll lead from the front. And if Tavernier is leading from the bench, then it's just another problem, isn't it?
Of course.
See, just on that, Keith, I know we've got Scotland stuff coming up as well. I know you were there today, Scott. But while you're talking about that, I think Callum McGregor deserves even more praise in the sense that I remember being at the Scottish Cup final in 2017, right? And a lot of Celtic fans might say I'm wrong, but I remember Callum McGregor having to play at left back that day because Tierney, remember, he broke his jaw. And he made a mistake which almost let Johnny Hayes in for what probably would have been Aberdeen's winner. And see the animosity from Celtic fans. If you'd said, what's that, 7 years ago, or 7 years into the future, he'd be on the brink of being a Celtic legend, Celtic captain, this amazing leader, few people would have believed you. But it's testament to him that he is. He's the real deal.
And his mentality and his resilience.
Yeah.
And I think he learned a lot in that regard from Scott Brown. He spent every day on the training ground with the guy, just watching him. And he's a clever guy, McGregor. Mm-hmm. So he would soak it all in. He would look to see, right, how's this guy doing it? very different personality from Scott Brown, and he's a very different sort of leadership. But fundamentally, at its core, it's the same. It's how do I take this group, help them to achieve, go that extra step when when difficult moments and difficult matches. What can I do to inspire? And he does it. And that is why, for me anyway, it is the captaincy is such an important part of any team. But in particularly in this part of the world, I think it's crucial that you've got the right man for the job.
You're right, but and it's interesting. I think Celtic have probably been fortunate, if that's the right word, that those two guys you're talking about, Brown and McGregor, both playing in the same position. They're both dictating games. They're orchestrating everything. They dictate the tempo.
Yep. That is
I think
important,
for a captain to do that is so important. Barry Ferguson did that for Rangers. I think Tavernier's had to try and lead in a different way. He can't do that for right back. Can he dictate games? Where I would give him credit is he has inspired Rangers with goals out of nothing, assists, Yankee Dortmund games, stuff like that. Even big pressure penalties. Yeah. I know he gets slagged for that, but listen, big pressure penalties when he has to step up.
Did he not score a crucial goal at Celtic Park? In one of the derbies, close to half time, Rangers were behind. I'm sure he curled one in and off the underside of the bar to make it 1-1, just shortly before half time.
Yeah.
So, and in these moments he has done it. Yeah. I don't know if this is just a temporary loss of form or dip in form, but he is getting to a certain age now. It is
he's not done that this season.
Do you know what it is? It's just another factor to feed into all the various factors that Rangers have got. I mean, imagine you come to the conclusion you need to find a new captain, as well as a new manager, as well as a director of football, as well as a chairman, as well as a chief executive. It does paint a rather chaotic picture all round.
He just looks like a guy this season, and it's only our opinions. We don't know. I know other people have said it. He doesn't look right this year. James Tavernier doesn't look particularly happy. He's not produced those kind of moments that we are talking about. To me, he looks like a guy who, and you might have said this before, but he looks like a guy who thought in the summer he was
getting away.
He was going. And it's felt like that from day one. Even when he's been put up at press conferences and he's been asked about that, and he's been asked about his own form. He's tried to put a brave face on it, but it's been unconvincing. Yeah. It just doesn't look the same Tavernier as has been there.